So the media are wreaking havoc on Western civilization. And then what they do is they get politicians like this, okay, lunatic Canadian MPs who are now joining in on the narrative and suggesting that Honk Honk that we all got from the Canadian truckers is an acronym for Heil Hitler. Who comes up with this shit? I mean, really, who comes up with this? What trucker ever meant for Honk Honk to be Heil Hitler? Is this not as disgusting as when Marjorie Taylor Greene compared the COVID lockdowns to the Holocaust? I mean, it wasn't acceptable when the right said it. Let's not forget this. It wasn't acceptable. Every time anybody on the right compared lockdowns to the Holocaust, or compared Biden to Hitler, or Trudeau to Hitler, there was outrage. We couldn't believe that anybody would say something so disgusting. Marjorie Taylor Greene got removed from committees because of her rhetoric. But the left get to say things like this. The left get to come out. They get to use terms like Heil Hitler, comparing it to Honk Honk. Let's take a listen and see what she had to say.
How many guns need to be seized? How much vitriol do we have to see of Honk Honk, which is an acronym for Heil Hitler, do we need to see by these protesters on social media? How many guns
so she clearly
need to be seized?
Is comparing Honk Honk to Heil Hitler. And she's saying, how many of these Honk Honks do we need to see? I don't know, you freaking nutcase. And that's not up to you to decide. We can say whatever we want. It's called free speech. And I'm pretty sure that you have it in Canada too. However, there's not much that Canada's really respecting as far as their own constitutional rights are concerned. But to come out and say that Honk Honk is the equivalent to Heil Hitler is just disgusting, and this is why we're losing, because the media keeps backing this up. The media comes up with these narratives that the establishment wrote and scripted. Don't mistake the fact that, or make no mistake, this did not come from the government. The government does not dictate to the media. I'm telling you right now, there's an establishment much more powerful than the government. It's the establishment dictating to the media how we're going to play this. Then the government are the puppets who carry out the message, or who at least normalize it, sell it to the people. And we've seen it time and time again. We see it over and over. All you have to do is pay attention. It's the same chain of events, the same script every single time. Establishment, media, you're going to put this out. Political puppets, you're going to get the people to buy into it. And we saw it with Justin Trudeau, with his nonstop aggressive, everybody needs to get vaccinated. This isn't going to be over until everyone's vaccinated. And they try to put on this show. They try to put on this peaceful front that they're in it for the people until they realize they're losing. Then they come out and they lash. They lash back with things like this. And this is where you know they're desperate. This is when you know they've been backed into a corner. But the thing that shocks me the most is that most Canadians went along with it. I just told you earlier in the show, House of Commons voted 181 to 151. Or 185 to 151. Canada's House of Commons votes 185 to 151 in favor of invoking the Emergencies Act in response to the convoy blockades. The only way people vote in that regard is if they think that they have the people's support. So that's why I take these votes very seriously. That's why I take polls very seriously. Regardless of what you think about polls, polls mean a lot to me. And it's very rare that polls didn't actually pan out to reality. You don't need a crystal ball to know where we're headed. Take a look at the polls. Some take it with a grain of salt. Some are very biased. Quinnipiac, neutral. Rasmussen, I like to think, is quite neutral. Politico, quite neutral. You have to find neutral polls. Look at the polls. What are the people saying? How are the people being surveyed? What answers are they providing? And more importantly, how are they voting? Because that usually translates all the way up to the House of Representatives here in the United States, the House of Commons in Canada. So whatever the polls are saying, you better believe they're going to make their way into a legislative hearing or a vote on Capitol Hill. So it's very important we take a look at these polls so that when this shocking vote is had, like we just saw in the House of Commons, 185 to 151, voting in favor of invoking the Emergencies Act, you might be sitting here in outrage thinking, what the hell? Oh my God. But I'm sitting here thinking, I saw it coming from a mile away because the people have already been sold. And they're sold because the media is out there wreaking havoc, making things look way worse than they ever were. A peaceful protest of truckers now ended up with hundreds getting arrested, children being threatened, pets being confiscated and not being given back. Anybody who even assembled was going to get arrested then. So it turned from a very free country to tyranny in the matter of 3 weeks, to then the media sabotaging it so badly that you have left-wing lunatics like her on Parliament Hill suggesting that the acronym Honk Honk means Heil Hitler. And the people bought in to every single word of it.